All right, greetings everyone. Happy Friday to you. Hopefully you are doing well wherever you are. And we are bringing to you everything that is interesting from the newest update on JP to make your weekend for you. So in a very rare and doesn't happen ever sort of thing, I have decided to do a wave battle. Because, yeah, I do that apparently sometimes. Because I was really interested in the two new pieces of equipment, so we're going to talk about those today and whether or not you want them. We'll also go over the new Esper, the new VC, and the three new Limit Burst upgrades that have entered into the game, and that's kind of your update. There's also a survival battle, but survival battle, I'll just leave it for you guys to figure out, or maybe I'll make a separate video later. We'll see. Am I starved for content? Probably. All right, so first off, the Fist, which maxed out is a 215 magic, 15 attack, 39 HP, 7 accuracy, and 5 crit. Honestly, a really nice piece of equipment. And for gloves, this is just going to be the best piece of glove equipment ever, because you're also getting a 10% magic damage increase for 5 turns starting from the beginning of battle, increase magic attack by 20, single attack resistance by 10. It's a pretty big offensive weapon, and it even gives a little survivability too off of single target attacks. So if you like, personally, I just want this essentially for Renoa, because I'm more interested in doing, a slightly offensive build for her, because she is a character who does actually like doing some offensive attacks, so it kind of works. But this is one of those days where, unfortunately, the thing we want and the thing we should do are probably two entirely different things. Because here we go, and as someone in my chat is saying right now, because I'm recording this live, yeah, it's just better than her windmill weapon, but since her windmill weapon is always her skin, it's okay. All right, so here we are, the armor, and boy howdy is this like the blood sword to me, because essentially what you're looking at here is a must build. Like almost 1400 HP on this thing, 22 defense, 6 spirit, and 15 critical evade. And that's all before talking about what the effects are. Now, so long as your HP is over 50% for a tank, which if you consider the best tanks in the game, a lot of them have HP regeneration when their HP falls too low, well, then you're getting 10% reduction on physical and magical damage. And, it's just really strong. It's just a really high defensive piece of equipment with fantastic stats. And oh yeah, besides the 15 crit evasion you're getting off of just basic stats here, you're also getting 30 critical evasion on top. So crits aren't super likely to happen with this armor. And you get debuff effect, weakening effect of 15, meaning that your defense is even more effective. Yeah, I love the glove. I would absolutely snap build the glove, as I already have resources for it already, but there's no two ways about it. This is probably the most mandatory build since the Blood Sword and the Genji glove, and yeah, just essentially get this. I would say that the first 7 waves were very, very doable from my experience, which means that you should have more than enough resources to build this effectively. And yeah, just really, really strong piece of equipment. So next over, let's take a tour and talk about the big tentacly man, Ultros, who, man oh man, this is gonna make some water users really happy. First off, the VC, 322 HP, 152 attack, 4 spirit. Okay. Looking at party effects, 24% magic resistance, 20 critical damage increase, and pierce attack by 35. Pretty nice VC for spear users. Like, this will probably be a mainstay for spear users well into the future. But then bonus effects, benefit, bestowed effect, that's the E word I'm looking for. 10% attack and 15 critical rate is just really good across the entire board. Next up, we're going to talk about Ultros, the tentacly man himself, who decreases water resistance by 50% off of his summon attack. You're also getting an increase of attack power for water users and magic power as well. Defense and spirit goes down by 25 if this attack hits any targets within range. Now, the Esper itself, Fire Killer, Evocation Boost, Accuracy, critical damage, magic resistance, critical evasion, and interestingly, one specific node buried pretty deep in his kit, which will be probably pretty expensive to get. You have to go through the critical evasion to get it. 20 defense penetration on this Esper alone, pierce attack up, and last but not least, increase attack by, I actually didn't calculate this before looking at that. That's my mistake. 13%, 15%, 20% attack increase. What's interesting about Ultros is that, just looking at him, Ultros is just a purely good physical Esper, who essentially is a just universally strong spear summon Esper. Like, you can throw this guy on any spear user and you're going to end up being really happy. But didn't end up even being water. This is just kind of like Sildra again, but instead of slash, just for pierce. And I'm curious if this trend continues, because I would love to see this trend continue of just universally good Espers for damage types. Strike Esper next? More likely than you think. All right, and so we've looked at the Esper, we've looked at the VC, we've looked at the equipment. Now we get to talk about the 3 characters that have been upgraded. So 3 new limit bursts have gotten upgrades, and they are in the theme of another story. First off is Ellis, who is still an insanely good unit, and yeah, enough said. Now, what you're looking at before, 100% hit chance, reduces physical damage taken 50%, 3 times for himself, and 200% mod. Now, AP cost hasn't changed. Basically decreases the AoE resistance on whoever gets hit by this by 38 for just that simple cast, and also dispels all debuffs on himself. Honestly, I think this is pretty mid on a character that's just insanely good anyway. So it's kind of a mediocre upgrade in my opinion if you look at what some other characters are getting. But then you consider Velis is still really good, and it doesn't fucking matter what I say, and is probably just a solid way to spend your limit burst upgrades out of all of them that have come so far. At Charlotte. Alright, moving into more dubious categories, let's talk about Setia, who is still one of my favorite designs for any unit ever in WOTV. And boy, I'm just want to find a good reason to upgrade her and use her again. So limit burst upgrade this time around. Range is staying the same. The cost is going down by 10 AP, which is pretty good. It still decreases fire resistance by 38%. Interestingly, is now considered a 175 mod instead of 200 mod, but gets a modifier increase by 75%. So essentially the way it reads is that overall the limit burst gets stronger up to 250, which good combination with fire resistance down is very strong. But then you're getting dispel all buffs per target, dispel haste, dispel physical damage increases, and magical damage increases. And it's still on a pretty good range, with now granting her auto restore 5% for 3 turns. It doesn't fix one of the big problems I have with Setia, which is that essentially she has accuracy issues, and getting more accuracy is the thing that I've kind of wanted with her for a long time now. Ice also isn't super prominent, so there isn't a ton of leverage or a ton of reason to maybe upgrade her other than you just love her, and that's fair. But this is a really good upgrade to her limit burst. It's just all across the board better now, and probably good enough to actually consider a usage, especially if you, again, really just want to use her. Pretty good. All right. And the last character we're going to talk about is June. I assume that Lucio will get a Limit Burst upgrade tied in with another story at some point. But let's talk about June. June, from what I remember with Wind teams recently, is somewhat used, but kind of been moved away a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what people think of her now. Limit Burst now breaks physical barriers, increases slash attack by 35%, or 35 for her, for 3 turns, starting at the end of this attack, which is important, and that's still the same as it was before. The Limit Burst also 200% mod. Now, also decreases AP consumption for her by 40% for 3 turns, which is a huge discount. All of her attacks that she does absorbs 30% of the damage done for 3 turns, finally making her offensive capabilities and offensive buffs more recently a little bit more interesting. And last but not least, she has a effect when a friendly unit within range is attacked, automatically cast a skill which reduces physical damage taken by 40% for allies. Now this is an aura effect, and interestingly, it isn't listed on WOTV Calc as being a timed limited effect. It's just an aura effect that is permanent. So very, very strong upgrade. I would say that this is probably my favorite of the 3 Limit Burst upgrades we've seen today, because it is both offensive, defensive, restorative. It is the full package, and it is the best. Now, talking about these 3 characters really quickly and which ones are likely to use their Limit Burst, June probably has a pretty good chance of seeing her Limit Burst get used, because she is a defensive character and she can get close. Maybe combining her with some different characters could force enemies closer, which makes the Limit Burst a little bit more reliable. Taking a look at what she can equip armor, which with the new piece of armor might be just a big enough defensive boost that this is completely viable, and we will see June become much more popular in Wind teams, and in combination with the Ultros Esper on Flag Glassy, kind of a sick combination, which might just be way better than I'm giving it credit for. Out of all of them, Setia is probably the most likely to constantly get her Limit Burst off, because it is just a highly ranged Limit Burst, and you're getting a lot of benefits off of it. So I think that Setia's is also really good. Bellis constantly uses his Limit Burst, lastly. Last thing I want to say here. So that one's also just really, you know, good to get the bonuses, to feel like you're actually, like, the Limit Burst upgrade was worth it. The only thing is, like, a lot of the times by the time that Bellis will use his Limit Burst, more often than not, he hasn't really been hit that much. So Dispel All debuffs for himself seems very unlikely to be that great. Decreasing AoE resistance for a single cast isn't overly impressive, but will allow him to do more damage. And, you know, it's just like this thing of just being the most solid and very reliably done. But actually, this grouping of all of them, I think, is very reliable in the sense that you can get all of these you can get all of these off quite reliably, and that just makes them a seriously good batch. Probably my favorite batch of all of them, because all 3 of these characters I can definitely see being used and potentially being strong with all the upgrades they've gotten over time. And I see that somebody is wondering if we're going to get a special guest appearance before the end of this video. Probably going to run over here. like a few seconds. What else can I say about this? I guess I'll talk about the wave battle really quickly. The new wave battle is very, very heavily focused on water and fire, with ice elemental characters and enemies in the higher floors, but also a good amount of just fire enemies throughout all 10 stages that I've seen. It's interesting. With how strong water feels, I feel like you could just make maybe just pure water and be very successful. I found that short of like just running out of time, because I wasn't optimized and I wasn't sure what to expect and strategize or anything like that yet, getting up to here felt relatively pretty easy, minus the time limit. So, doesn't look like it's going to make it before the end. You know, I can't stall that long, and we're already 16 minutes. So anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this look into the WOTV update. It's not flashy, it's not amazing, it's not a collaboration, and it's not a new character, but overall, I would say that this is just a really good update with a lot of net positives for different things and some cool upgrades that are worth actually trying and getting. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great weekend, and see you after the weekend for a WOTV update. Bye bye.